Good morning, afternoon or evening, and welcome back to another 0AD Alpha 23 replay commentary analysis. Today's match is between the current 0AD League champion and one of the other better players in the game, DoctorOrgans. So, just to clarify, that is Stockfish, who's the champion. He is rated at this time at 1885 and is playing as the Iberians, while DoctorOrgans is rated at 1975, playing as the Romans. Now you'll notice that the map, when we start, has very little wood, and therefore the two different strategies that they approach we can learn a lot from in terms of improving our own games. So less chat, more action. Let's get on with it. So as the action begins, we can see that it is, I forget what this biome is called, savanna or something like that, but it's one of those ones where there's these massive trees that do have quite a lot of wood in them, but there's not very much wood overall. They're very spread out. And so we've got the Romans in the south, and that's DoctorOrgans. As Iberians in the north, we have Stockfish. I was going to say Stockfish then, like Sean Connery, but only just Stockfish. So one of the first things I found really interesting about this game, and yeah, I do know the result, but you don't, so you'll find out a bit later, is that Stockfish is really renowned for early cavalry rushes, and whether it's because he's the Iberians or whatnot, he doesn't choose to do that, and I find that really strange because on this biome you normally have elephants and giraffes, and they're a really good source of food, and that isn't something that he chooses to go with. So an interesting change of strategy there. Although having said that, he had played a few games with DoctorOrgans at this point, so maybe he was trying to mix it up as well. It's difficult to say, but for me, I think on these sorts of maps it's always good to have cavalry. I mean, you can see as we approach the centre, look how many giraffes there are there. Each one of them is 350 food, so you've got, for each one of those you've got 7 soldiers or 7 female citizens, whatever you want. But the other thing that's important to note about these sort of maps is because of the way the trees are located, it's building storehouses in the right places, because you can build a storehouse for this tree, but that's then going to cost you 100 to get your 400 wood, so you need to try and locate them as much as possible in between trees, like somewhere around here for instance, to try and cut the delivery time on the wood, but at the same time not give yourself not be creating too many of them. These sort of maps do form they give their own challenges. So let's have a look here. So yeah, as you can see, contrary to what I expected prior to watching this, it's actually DoctorOrgans who's got more cavalry. Now these cavalry are spear cavalry lancers. They're really, really good at taking down giraffes, less good when it comes to taking down elephants, because the elephants can attack them back and they tend to take some of them out before you can get all the elephants that you want, before you can fully take them out. So let's have a quick look at the map before we do anything else. You can see the other thing with these this biome is you get plenty of mineral resources. So we've got here some stone, here we've got some metal, more metal and stone over here, more stone, here's some more stone, plenty more stone, and over here there's 2 things of metal. So yeah, there's plenty of mineral resources, but you have to be a bit more careful with your wood. So let's see now what's he up to. So we've got 8 cavalry. Stockfish has the advantage in population, but you'd expect that because he hasn't been producing cavalry. That said, he's been producing skirmishers, so he's not like he's producing only women, and he has started mining for stone very early. That's interesting, and that I could only think of is to make sure that he can build more barracks down the line, because he's currently got 160, so he had 300, he's spent 200 of it building his first barracks, and he's got mined another bit. So yeah, you can see he's pulling back ahead in there. So he's just producing skirmishers. He's producing skirmishers from both, actually. That's interesting. I would have thought could produce skirmishers from the barracks while he produced women from the town centre, because they would then be able to get more food in, build houses, whatever. He's got quite a lot of idle things as well. Yeah, 11 idle citizens out of 47. You know, over 10% of his citizens are doing nothing. That's not good whatsoever. So yeah, I noticed that in a few of the games he's like made a few mistakes there and kept quite a lot of people idle, which at the early point in the game you just can't afford any idle time whatsoever. So to be having such a vast number of his citizens idle there is really not very good. So you can see now how many cavalry. He's still on 8 cavalry, producing 10 women there, and once he gets this barracks up, it'll be interesting to see what he starts producing. And as I mentioned earlier about the storehouse, good location there. Tree here, tree here, tree here. Yeah, it could maybe have been better in there. But another good thing to learn from, which is you play, is this farmstead on the front line is you know, there were no berries here or anything. That's purely to make him be able to transport the giraffe meat in a bit more quickly. So that's a really smart move when there are these animals out to be hunted, that you build this a bit nearer to them, particularly in an instance where you've got when you're using spear cavalry to chase them down, because the spear cavalry kill them a lot more quickly than would happen if you tried to kind of corral them in a particular direction using range cavalry. So yeah, that was a very sensible move, very good move, and it's paying off. And we can now see that actually Stockfish and DoctorOrgans are pretty much neck and neck in population size. So DoctorOrgans starts to produce some skirmishers. He's got nothing being produced from his town centre though, so the question is about to what extent. Yeah, they're both producing relatively slowly. I feel like, let's have a look actually again at the numbers here. Yeah, they're not terrible populations, but not great either. But I feel that Stockfish could have produced more women than he has done. How many has he got? Kind of here, 38. He's been producing soldiers from there. He's not looking great for wood or food, but the wood is just the nature of the map. The food he could deal with. If he were to, get these fields fully stocked. How many fields does he have? 6. Does he have the 30 women on them? No, he's got 26. So yeah, he could do with getting a few extra women in there, working on those fields to move them, use them to their maximum. And down this side, I think we'll see, Stockfish is now starting to produce a military. So he's got his cavalry, 12 cavalry, that can cause quite a bit of mayhem. He's also really cleaned up in the centre, you can see with the food. So where Stockfish has been struggling with food, look at DoctorOrgans. I'll just put it up here where you can see it a bit better. He's got like nearly 1,000 food, so he's in a great position thanks to these cavalry. So in this sort of map, the advantage is not just that he can attack with the cavalry, it's that before that they're incredibly efficient at collecting food, and this is the first sort of raid, and you can see that Stockfish is going to try and fend him off, but I think we'll see this guy die, and well, he's gone. I think they could have taken those. He backed off. But the other good thing is you don't actually have to kill your opponents with the cavalry charge, as long as your harassment causes them to be idle for any amount of time. As you've already said, it's so important to make sure that you're active all the time. These people need to be collecting resources, and all the time that they're not is it's a waste. Oh, this is so nearly done. They might lose that house. Hasn't lost the house. So can he complete building the house? Again, he's making these little darts in and out, and there you go, the house is complete now. So that means it's useful. As you can see, that one's got 2 women in. These houses are useful for the women that are collecting on the front line. They can garrison in there if they come under attack, which it's quite clear that now with this kind of cavalry advantage, there's a good chance of DoctorOrgans continuing this, and so he should. So the difficulty that the Iberians have, I mean, it's unfortunately a bit of a perfect storm. I don't know if they prepared this biome or not, but if they didn't, then having picked Iberians, they give you the walls, which obviously help you defend against cavalry rushes, so that's helpful. But with this biome, that does mean that there's not a lot of wood, and you don't get spears until you get into phase 2. So for Stockfish here, as the Iberian player, his issue is that he's not got the infantry that are the obvious counter to the cavalry of the spears yet. But yet he still needs to leave the safety of his base in order to actually collect enough wood. So it is, as I say, that's really unfortunate from his perspective. Had he known the biome in advance, I'm sure he would have picked a different civilization. But that is the risk that you run, and that's the nature of the game. So you can't complain at this point. Let's just see. Yeah, I think he's only lost one cavalryman during this whole time, and here we see there's a very strong attack coming in here. Is he going to be able to get his troops to safety? DoctorOrgans was very, very careful to ensure that his troops don't get trapped on the other side of that door and then get trapped in, ready to be killed. Interesting place to build a tower there, when you consider that this tower will, these turrets that he's already got are going to fire further. Would he not have been better just garrisoning people in these towers? I don't fully grasp what the purpose of that is. Say these have got a far better reach. So he's producing. Still, he's reached phase 2. No, he hasn't reached phase 2. Sorry, I thought we had for a second there. I thought, oh, he's got the spears available. They're not yet. But DoctorOrgans is well clearing population and more idle time as well. This is what's going to cost him. The other thing, and he's housed as well. This is such a classic thing that happens when when you have these 5 these houses that only give you a 5 population bonus. You can get housed so much more easily. Like 10 gives you that space to actually really think about what you're doing. 5, if you get sidetracked at all, your population maxes out immediately. I mean, he's already at 120, so he's still not able to produce anything, and that's not a house. So another house will take him up to 125. He's trying to produce some soldiers. He needs to get yet another house up. You see, it's just that much more difficult. Or say it's not that it's more difficult, it's just it's easier to forget when you're on these 5 population houses. So here we have some more of DoctorOrgans troops. He's got nice 10 population houses there, but he's still building plenty of them, so he's giving himself a nice big buffer. I mean, he's going to be up to 200 max pop in no time with these houses, and that gives him a really strong position. And with this one as well, he's got more. I'd be very he's built this this tower. He makes a habit of doing that. A few things that he does are watchtowers, and he's got one of those. Oh, we've got a little bit of attacking going on here. So yeah, and Stockfish actually removed his back wall in order to have better access to this this wood, but then built a storehouse. Anyway, I mean, I won't just feels like that could come back to haunt him at a later point in the game. But yeah, this is very, very sensible. I really like these sort of things that DoctorOrgans does with the watchtowers. He normally tries to build them around his opponent's perimeter. So normally he'd wait until his opponent got to phase 2 and then build across the perimeter. You can see from Stockfish's point of view, he's had to use barracks to expand his territory out to get closer to more wood, but he's got horrible distances to travel back, really horrible. He's really struggling to find good spots to chop, whereas DoctorOrgans, I think it's just made him, it's not that he's had a particularly better draw, like in terms of clumps of trees. I think he's just managed it better, and he certainly has done that. He's looking good, but Stockfish continues to be short of food, and he's finally got himself clear from the cusp of, but half of his fields are not being tended because they're still, he's got 6 fields, and if we have a look again, he's got 16 idle women who should all be farming and aren't, and that's why he's not got any food. So that little attack from DoctorOrgans has had a really, you can see the positive effect that it's had. Again, it's due to not many people died, but the fact that he then had a load of women that he forgot to send back to work to actually do anything has meant real issues. His food supply dried right up for a little while, and that means that his population is now 23 behind, and he's also at phase 1 rather than phase 2, and now he's going to have to try and contend with the fact that this civic centre, if that goes up, would prove pretty much fatal. So he's doing some good, some nice distraction going on from DoctorOrgans. I don't think Stockfish can see the thing. He can't see it. It's beautifully positioned to be just outside of his line of sight, and by keeping these cavalry, getting his soldiers running around chasing shadows, again, still no production. I mean, the thing is, ordinarily I would say that, he's noticed now, and here he goes, he's trying to go up to phase 2, and can he stop? It's critical that he does. He's trying to send some more people in to stop it. The advantage that he has, that he's not really utilised, the fact that now he's at phase 2, he can produce slingers, which will save his wood, which is something that's not available to the Romans. Okay, I think, we're going to see, they looked good for a bit, but now there's real, there's trouble. He's just reached the town phase, and now he's got to get, so that's why there were no slingers, because he wasn't actually at town phase yet. That's the other troop that gets made available to the Iberians, is those, and the slingers would be really helpful. As I say, they don't cost wood, and they're also going to get be able to knock down buildings, which would be really helpful. So he has started to produce slingers from his barracks, which is the most sensible thing. That said, he still doesn't have as much wood as he needs. Okay, but DoctorOrgans is now pulling all of his troops together, and that is a large number of soldiers. Can he knock down? The thing, it's still, I just wandered around, and the thing is, they're carrying, like, if you just take out these ones, these people are carrying lots of wood and metal and a little bit less stone. But they need to actually be, well, they could have been taking the civic centre out, and they didn't. They're now, he's putting more people forward in an effort to stop it going up, but with the numbers that DoctorOrgans has, I can't see that it's going to be possible to stop this now. And yeah, the battle really commences. I think, yeah, Stockfish has got fewer soldiers, full stop. So it's, yeah, or maybe, oh, there's the cavalry going around the back, taking out the women. Pretty smart bit of play. Nice micro there from DoctorOrgans. He only got one cavalryman left, but these, yeah, I think, and he's just cut his losses and decided to, oh no, he hasn't cut his losses, my mistake, but the swordsmen are doing a great job. There's no, he has no melee infantry to protect his skirmishers, so he's trying to get some stone together to produce slingers, presumably. Now he's going for swordsmen, who again use slightly less wood, but not a vast amount less. And with any second now, this small group of citizen soldiers will get that civic centre up, and they do. And it's going to be very, very difficult from this point on. It needs to quickly work out. Oh, and he's reached the city phase as well, which further pushes back the border. So he's got a tower on the front line, which will help get a little bit more territory. But it's now going to be incredibly difficult for him to, yeah, well, Stockfish realised that and gave up. But it was going to become difficult for him to try and get at these trees, because they're suddenly going to fall so close to that civic centre. There's some trees here, but with the way the territory was, it was going to be nigh on impossible. I think, yeah, he really suffered for having fallen for that kind of cavalry thing. DoctorOrgans was able to get so much more food so much more quickly. So I mean, we can look, you can see only one building was destroyed in the whole game, and that was one house. In terms of units, you can see that, yeah, there's some numbers. Let's go and look at the charts. Those are much more interesting to me. Oh no, where's the kill death ratio? There you go. Yeah, so actually pretty even. DoctorOrgans had much more map control, absolutely, but that was right at the end of the game. He also explored the map a lot better, so well done there. You can see this is where the big difference was as well. The vegetarian ratio, 96% of Stockfish's food came from his farming, whereas DoctorOrgans only produced 68%, which is, yeah, is very, very good. Like to have used his cavalry to hunt so successfully. So in terms of total score and economy, let's look at military score. You can see, during it, there was a point towards the end where Stockfish actually had a better military, apparently, but all the way through it never really seemed that way. And in terms of economy, yeah, it was the cavalry that won it, really. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that, and I'll see you in the next week or so for another fun 0 AD video. Obrigado e adeus.